My name is Olivia, and at 31 years old, I never imagined that inheriting my grandmother's abandoned farm would become the biggest fight of my life. For 5 years, I poured everything into transforming 40 acres of overgrown land into something beautiful, waking before dawn, bleeding into the soil, building a sanctuary with my own hands. My husband called it my little hobby. His parents saw it as wasted potential, and when they announced they were moving in to enjoy their retirement on my property, I simply smiled and said, "Welcome home." What happened next taught them that farm life isn't about pretty sunsets and fresh air. It's about survival, sacrifice, and knowing exactly what you're willing to fight for. If you want to hear a story about what happens when entitled people underestimate a woman who's spent years learning to stand her ground, you're in the right place. Comment where you are watching from today, and like and subscribe for more stories. The brass key was cold in my palm when the lawyer pressed it into my hand after Grandma Dorothy's funeral. Everyone else had already left the church, most heading to the reception at Aunt Carol's house, but Mr. Henderson had pulled me aside with that look lawyers get when they're about to change your life. "Your grandmother left specific instructions," he said, sliding an envelope across his desk. "She wanted you to have Willowbrook Farm." I stared at the envelope, my name written in Grandma's shaky handwriting. Inside, a single sentence, "Make it bloom again, sweetheart. It's waiting for you." Noah was waiting in the car, scrolling through his phone. When I slid into the passenger seat and told him about the inheritance, he didn't even look up. 40 acres in the middle of nowhere? He finally glanced at me. "Olivia, we could sell that and pay off the apartment mortgage. Maybe even upgrade." I didn't answer. Something about that key felt like a lifeline I hadn't known I was drowning without. The first time I drove out to Willowbrook Farm alone, Noah refused to take a day off work. I almost turned around 3 times. The driveway was overgrown, branches scraping my car like skeletal fingers. When the farmhouse finally came into view, my heart sank. The wraparound porch sagged, windows were broken, and the barn looked like a strong wind might flatten it. But then I found Grandma's journals in the attic. Boxes of them, dating back to 1958 when she and Grandpa first bought the property. Sketches of garden layouts, notes about crop rotation, pressed flowers between pages. One entry from 1962 stopped me cold. "This land saved me when I had nothing. It will save someone else someday." I sat on that dusty attic floor until sunset, reading her dreams. By the time I climbed back down, something had shifted inside me. This wasn't just a property. It was a purpose. The secret fund had started 3 years ago. An inheritance from my father's side that Noah didn't know about. $15,000. Then my annual bonuses from the marketing firm, side freelance projects. Every spare dollar I could hide away. By the time Grandma died, I had $47,000 in an account with only my name on it. When I told Noah I wanted to take a sabbatical to restore the farmhouse as a weekend getaway, he was skeptical. 6 months. He set down his beer. "What about your career?" "I have vacation time saved up and they'll let me go part-time remote." The lies came easier than I expected. "Think about it. We fix it up and the property value skyrockets. It's an investment." He considered this, then shrugged. "Fine. But don't expect me out there every weekend. That place gives me the creeps." Sullivan Peterson, Sully to everyone who knew him, was the first person I met when I started working on the farm. The gruff 68-year-old lived on the neighboring property and had known my grandparents for 40 years. "Dorothy was special," he said, leaning against my car that first week. "This land is special too. The soil, the spring water, developers have been circling for years. Don't let anyone take it from you, girl." He taught me everything. How to fix a fence post, clear irrigation lines, tell good soil from bad. On nights when I wanted to quit, when my hands were bleeding and my back screamed, Sully would appear with coffee and remind me why I was doing this. "Your grandmother knew you'd come. She told me years ago. Sully, Olivia's got my spirit. She just doesn't know it yet." The first night I slept in the farmhouse, I used oil lamps because the electricity wasn't connected yet. The house settled and creaked around me, animals rustled outside, and I never felt more alive. This was real. This was mine. Noah visited exactly twice in the first 3 months. Both times, he spent the entire visit on his phone, complaining about the bugs and the lack of Wi-Fi. "How long are you going to keep this up?" he asked during his second visit, not looking up from his screen. "This farmer phase?" I was installing a window I'd spent 2 days learning to properly frame. "It's not a phase." "Right," he laughed. "Well, when you're done playing Little House on the Prairie, let me know." That night, he called his parents. I wasn't meant to overhear, but sound carries in an empty house. "She's out here playing farmer," he told them. "Don't worry, she'll get tired of it. It's just Olivia being Olivia, needs a project to feel important." I said nothing, but something hardened inside me that night, something that had been soft and trusting before. Year 1. I taught myself carpentry from YouTube videos and Sully's patient instruction. I fixed the well, installed solar panels on the barn roof, started a small vegetable garden. Year 2. I learned plumbing and basic electrical, built chicken coops, expanded the garden, started selling produce at the local farmers market under the name Dorothy's Garden. The community embraced me. Meadow Jenkins at the feed store gave me discounts and advice. Thomas Hartley, a retired contractor, helped me rebuild the barn in exchange for fresh vegetables. People started calling me by name at the post office. Noah visited less and less. He'd tell his friends I was working through something. When he did visit, he'd make jokes about my rustic lifestyle and check his watch constantly. By year 4, I'd transformed Willowbrook Farm into something extraordinary. The barn was restored, housing goats and chickens. A greenhouse provided year-round vegetables. I'd built a permaculture food forest that attracted birds and beneficial insects. The farmhouse glowed with solar power. I was hosting farm stays and teaching workshops on sustainable living. And I was happy. Genuinely. Bone-deep happy in a way I'd never been in my marriage. The property was now worth over $800,000. I'd secretly consulted a divorce lawyer, Linda Crawford, sharp as a tack and kind as Sunday, but hadn't pulled the trigger. Some part of me still hoped Noah might see what I'd built. Might see me. Then came Christmas dinner at Richard and Patricia's McMansion. Noah's parents lived in a 5,000-square-foot monument to excess in the suburbs. Marble everything, chandeliers in every room, furniture that looked expensive but felt cold. Patricia served prime rib and complained about her housekeeper the entire time. Over dessert, Noah mentioned casually, "Olivia's little farm project is finally paying off. The property's worth a fortune now." Richard's eyes lit up like a shark spotting blood. Patricia's smile went tight and calculating. I knew that look. I'd seen it before when they'd convinced Noah to take a job at Richard's friend's firm instead of pursuing the career he actually wanted. 3 days later, Noah called me at the farm. "My parents want to have dinner with us. They have exciting news." I should have known then. Should have felt the trap closing. The restaurant was one of those places where the waiters wear vests and the wine list has its own sommelier. Richard had reserved a private room. Bad sign. We'd barely ordered appetizers when Richard dropped the bomb. "Patricia and I are retiring." He raised his wine glass. "And we've made a decision. We're selling the house and moving to the farm. There's plenty of space, and we can finally spend quality time together as a family." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. Patricia was already pulling out her iPad. "I've been planning our wing," she gushed, swiping through Pinterest boards. "We'll take the east side of the second floor. I assume that's available? And I've designed where the hot tub will go, and Richard wants a putting green by the barn. We'll split utilities and property taxes, of course," Richard added, like he was doing me a favor. "It's perfect." Patricia's always wanted to try country living. I looked at Noah. He was nodding along, a faint smile on his face. He knew. He'd been discussing this with them. "This is unexpected." My voice sounded far away. "I need time to think about it." Patricia's smile faltered. "Think about what?" "We're family, Olivia. You deny us a peaceful retirement." Richard leaned forward. "Besides, Noah has partial ownership through marriage. We've already consulted our lawyer about the details." The rest of dinner passed in a blur. I smiled, nodded, said nothing of substance. But inside I was calculating. Planning. Linda Crawford's office smelled like old books and coffee. She listened to everything, taking notes in neat handwriting before delivering the verdict. The property was your inheritance, so it's solely in your name. That's good. She tapped her pen against her desk. But you used marital time and some joint savings for improvements. In a divorce, Noah could argue for partial ownership of the increased value. It wouldn't be half, but it could be substantial. How substantial? $100,000, maybe more. And a court battle could take 2 years and cost you half that in legal fees. She studied me. But here's the thing, they'd have to prove you deliberately used marital assets to defraud him. From what you've told me, you used mostly your inheritance and your own earnings. So what do I do? Linda smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Give them exactly what they're asking for. That night, I confronted Noah in our apartment. When were you going to tell me your parents were moving to the farm? He had the grace to look uncomfortable. I thought they'd already talked to you. They ambushed me. At dinner. With you sitting right there, nodding along. Come on, Olivia. He stood up, frustrated. They're my parents. You have this huge property. Why are you being so selfish? Selfish. I stared at him. I built that place from nothing. Every board, every nail. And it's worth a fortune now. He threw up his hands. Why can't we all benefit? They just want somewhere peaceful to retire. Do you even like the farm, Noah? The question hung between us. He hesitated too long. Not really, he finally admitted. But it's valuable. We can all live there and get out. What? Get out of my sight. Sleep in the spare room. I can't look at you right now. The calls from Patricia started the next day. Constant. Relentless. I think we should remove some of those fruit trees. They block the view. The wildflower meadow would make a perfect parking area if we pave it. Those chicken coops are adorable, but we'll need to relocate them. The smell, you understand. When I didn't immediately agree, she started sending contractors to assess the property. I came home from the market one Saturday to find 2 men measuring my garden beds. Mrs. Ashford sent us. One explained. We're planning the pool installation. I sent them away, hands shaking with rage. Sully found me that evening, crying in the barn. What's wrong, girl? I told him everything. When I finished, his weathered face was grim. I've been asking around town. That father-in-law of yours? He's been inquiring about property lines, water rights, zoning laws. Sully shook his head. Men like Richard don't retire to farms, Olivia. They develop them. He's planning something. The pieces clicked together. Richard had been a commercial real estate developer before retiring. This wasn't about peaceful country living. This was about money. I did some research. Found LLC filings, development proposals for luxury rural communities in surrounding counties, all with Richard's name attached. He'd done this before, moved into properties, pressured owners to sell, then flipped them to developers. The final confrontation happened on a Tuesday. Noah drove out to the farm with his parents in tow. Richard had a folder under his arm. We've drawn up a cohabitation agreement, he announced, sliding papers across my kitchen table, the table I'd restored from Grandma's barn. We'll pay $1,000 monthly rent for our wing. But we need equal say in property decisions. Maintenance, improvements, that sort of thing. I read through the contract. It was worse than I'd imagined. They'd have access to all facilities, veto power over any changes, and the right to invite guests without my permission. And if I don't sign? Richard's smile was cold. Then we'll pursue legal action for Noah's rightful share. My lawyer's already drawn up the paperwork. Patricia added, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Don't be difficult, dear. We're moving in either way. This just makes it official. I looked at each of them. Richard, smug and calculating. Patricia, already mentally redecorating my home. Noah, unable to meet my eyes. Then I smiled. A genuine, warm smile that made Patricia's expression flicker with uncertainty. You want to move to the farm? To live the farm life. Richard nodded eagerly.
Exactly.
Country living, fresh air. Then welcome home, I said softly. When would you like to move in? The room went silent. Noah looked relieved. Patricia looked suspicious. Richard looked triumphant. "We can be there by the end of the month," Richard said. "Perfect." I stood up, still smiling. "I'll prepare your rooms." After they left, I called Sully, then Meadow, then Thomas. "I need your help," I told them. "And I need you to trust me." When I explained my plan, Sully started laughing so hard he had to sit down. "Your grandmother would be so damn proud." Moving day arrived with a massive U-Haul truck, designer luggage, and furniture that belonged in a showroom, not a farmhouse. Patricia directed the movers like a general commanding troops, pointing at where she wanted her Italian leather sofa and her collection of abstract art. I greeted them with fresh lemonade and a warm smile. "Welcome home." I'd prepared their wing beautifully. The renovated second floor with refinished hardwood, a private bathroom with a clawfoot tub, and windows overlooking the meadow. Patricia inspected everything with narrowed eyes, looking for something to complain about. She couldn't find anything. "It's nice," she finally admitted, clearly disappointed. "Where's the Wi-Fi password?" "Oh." I handed her a small card. "We use satellite internet here. It's great for email and light browsing, but there's a data cap for environmental reasons. Streaming doesn't work well, and video calls can be spotty. Most people find it liberating to unplug." Patricia's face went pale. "What do you mean, unplug? How will I watch my shows?" I shrugged sympathetically. "There's a library in town. They have DVDs." Richard was already frowning at his phone. "1 bar of service? How do you live like this?" "You get used to it," I said cheerfully. "Now, let me show you how everything works." That night, I made sure to move General Beauregard's coop. My rooster was a magnificent bird with a voice that could wake the dead. His new home? Directly outside Richard and Patricia's bedroom window. At 5:30 a.m., General Beauregard announced the dawn with enthusiastic vigor. I heard the thump of Richard falling out of bed, followed by Patricia's shriek. By 6 a.m., I was knocking on their door, already dressed in work clothes. "Morning. Coffee's ready downstairs. We start chores in 15 minutes." Patricia opened the door in a silk nightgown, hair in disarray. "Chores?" I handed them each a printed schedule. "Morning routine: collect eggs, feed the goats, muck out stalls, water the greenhouse. Everyone contributes here. That's how sustainable living works." Richard sputtered. "We're retired. We're not doing manual labor." "Oh." I widened my eyes innocently. "I thought you wanted the authentic farm experience. But if you'd prefer, you can handle breakfast prep for everyone instead? I usually do eggs, fresh bread, and cheese from our goats." They chose the chores. Watching Patricia, in her Lululemon athleisure that cost more than my monthly feed bill, try to collect eggs from territorial hens was the most entertainment I'd had in years. Richard couldn't figure out how to open the goat pen without getting headbutt by Clementine, my alpha doe. By breakfast, they were scratched, dirty, and silent. The water pressure issue revealed itself during Patricia's morning shower. I'd adjusted the solar water heater settings. After 5 minutes, the water ran ice cold. Patricia emerged from the bathroom shivering, wrapped in towels. "What's wrong with your water heater?" "Nothing's wrong. We use solar heating and rainwater collection. You have to conserve." I smiled. Grandma Dorothy always said 5-minute showers save the planet. Dinner that first night was farm to table: roasted vegetables, fresh salad, eggs, and goat cheese. All delicious. All vegetarian. Patricia pushed food around her plate. "Don't you have any real food? Like steak? Or pasta?" "We're mostly vegetarian here. Better for the land." I took a bite of heirloom tomato. "There's a grocery store about 30 miles away if you want to shop." Richard and Patricia exchanged looks of pure horror. That night, the farm came alive with its nocturnal symphony. Coyotes howling in the distance, owls hooting from the barn, frogs singing from the pond, and my goats making their strange, otherworldly noises. At midnight, Brutus, my 130-pound Great Pyrenees, started his patrol, barking at every shadow. Richard stumbled downstairs at 12:30 a.m. "Can you control that beast?" I was reading by oil lamp. Perfectly calm. He's protecting the livestock. That's his job. You'll get used to it. We can't sleep. Earplugs are in the bathroom cabinet. Day 2 started with Patricia trying to use her high-wattage hairdryer. The circuit breaker tripped immediately, cutting power to the entire second floor. I reset it, but explained the solar panel limitations during overcast days. You'll need to air-dry your hair. Or use the low-power setting. I demonstrated.
See?
Easy. Richard's electric razor was useless. They both looked increasingly disheveled as the day progressed. Patricia's perfectly styled bob became a frizzy mess. Richard's designer stubble became an actual beard. That afternoon, Clementine went into labor. Olivia, Thomas called from the barn. It's time. I dropped everything and ran. Goat births could be complicated, and Clementine was a first-timer. I needed all hands on deck. Richard, Patricia, I shouted. I need help. They came reluctantly, taking in the scene. Clementine on her side, clearly in distress, Sully already gloved up. What do you need us to do? Richard asked weakly. Hold her steady.
Talk to her.
Keep her calm. For the next 2 hours, we worked. It was messy, primal, intense. Patricia looked like she might faint when the first kid emerged in its amniotic sac. But when the second kid came and both started bleeding, something shifted. They're alive, Patricia whispered, tears in her eyes. We helped birth them. I was covered in fluids, exhausted, triumphant. I handed Patricia a towel. Welcome to the farm. It's not all sunsets and Instagram photos, is it? She shook her head, unable to speak. That night, they barely touched their dinner. They went to bed at 8 p.m. without a word. I sat on the porch with Sully, listening to the night. How much longer do you think they'll last? He asked. Another day, maybe 2. Then the real fun begins. 48 hours in, Patricia demanded they go to town. I need real food and Wi-Fi. Now. We drove to the local diner, the same place I'd had my first meal when I moved to the area. The same place where everyone now knew my name. Patricia ordered a burger and immediately connected to the Wi-Fi, her phone dinging with days of backed-up notifications. She scrolled frantically while Richard inhaled his food like a man rescued from starvation. This place is unlivable, Patricia announced to no one in particular, but loud enough for the entire diner to hear. No proper internet, no hot water, animals everywhere, and the smell. Emma's clearly let the place go to ruin. The diner went quiet. I sat there calmly, sipping my coffee. Sully walked in, took one look at the situation, and slid into our booth. Everything all right, Mrs. Ashford? Farm life getting too real for you? Patricia exploded. That place is a nightmare. There's no civilization, no comfort, nothing. And Olivia expects us to do manual labor like servants. We're retired, for God's sake. Meadow, from her spot at the counter, spoke up. That farm won Olivia 3 sustainability awards. She teaches kids about organic farming. What exactly did you expect? Thomas added from his booth. City folks always think farming's like a vacation. It's the hardest work there is. Patricia looked around, realizing for the first time that everyone in this diner was on my side. She was the outsider. I finally spoke, my voice cold and clear. Let the place go to ruin? I built that place from nothing. Every solar panel, every garden bed, every fence post, I did that. You wanted farm life. This is farm life. Richard grabbed Patricia's arm. We're leaving. But I wasn't done. You wanted to move to the farm? To live there permanently? Welcome to what that actually means. Early mornings, physical labor, limited resources, and making do with what you have. This is real life, not a retirement fantasy. We drove back in silence. That night, I staged my masterpiece. I accidentally left the barn door unlatched. At 3 a.m., my 4 pygmy goats, adorable, chaotic, and absolutely fearless, wandered into the house. They went straight for Richard and Patricia's room. The screams woke me from my deep sleep. I rushed upstairs to find Patricia standing on her bed while goats ate her silk scarves. Richard was trying to shoo them away, while one chewed on his important documents. Oh no! I gasped, herding the goats out. I'm so sorry. They've never done this before. But I was smiling. And Patricia saw it. The next morning, while I was making coffee, Patricia appeared in my study doorway. She was holding papers. My divorce papers. The ones I'd drafted months ago. You're divorcing Noah. I didn't deny it. I've been thinking about it for 2 years. 2 years. She looked genuinely shocked. This farm showed me I don't need him. It showed me I'm capable of everything he said I wasn't. I took the papers from her. It showed me what I'm actually worth. For a long moment, Patricia just stared at me. Then she sat down heavily. Richard wanted to develop this land, she said quietly. Sell it to a resort company. He's been talking to developers for months. He thought if we moved in, we could pressure you to sell, and Noah would agree. I know, Sully told me. You knew? Why do you think I let you come? Patricia's face crumbled. This was a test.
No.
This was a lesson. I leaned forward. You wanted something that didn't belong to you. You didn't see my work, my sacrifice, my purpose. You saw opportunity. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared. Printed emails between Richard and Summit Ridge Developments. Plans for Willowbrook Luxury Estates. Richard's promises to deliver the property. I have more, I said. Recordings of your coercion attempts. Witnesses to your harassment. A legal brief from my attorney showing Noah has zero claim to this property because it was my inheritance. Patricia went white. You have 24 hours to leave. Or I file restraining orders and sue for attempted fraud and harassment. Olivia. I'm not finished. I stood. You're going to tell Richard that you're done with his schemes. You're going to leave my farm and never contact me about it again. And you're going to tell Noah that if he tries anything, I go to the police. After she left, I called Noah. He answered on the third ring. Olivia? Your parents tried to steal my farm to sell it to developers. You knew, didn't you? Silence. Long and damning. They said it would be good for us financially, he finally admitted. I didn't think you'd actually care this much about some old farm. Some old farm. Years of my life, blood, sweat, dreams, some old farm. Then you never knew me at all. My voice was steady. I'll have the divorce papers ready. Don't come back here. I hung up before he could respond. Through the window, I watched Richard and Patricia's U-Haul pull away, much faster than it had arrived. Patricia had told him everything. They were leaving in shame, in anger, but they were leaving. Sully appeared at my door an hour later with a bottle of whiskey. Heard the news travels fast in town. He poured 2 glasses. You did good, girl. Did I? I felt suddenly exhausted. I just blew up my marriage and humiliated his parents. You protected what's yours. What you built. What your grandmother trusted you with. He raised his glass.
To Dorothy.
She knew you had the spine for this. We drank as the sun set over my farm, my land, my future, and for the first time in years, I felt completely, utterly free. The paperwork was filed on a Tuesday morning. Linda Crawford's office smelled like possibility and new beginnings. With the evidence you've provided, the recordings, the emails, the development scheme, Noah won't get a penny from the farm, Linda said, sliding the divorce petition across her desk. And his parents? They're lucky you're not pressing charges. I signed my name with steady hands. Olivia Whitmore. I'd be taking back my maiden name, the name that belonged on this land. There's something else, Linda added, her expression serious. Noah's lawyer reached out. He wants to settle quickly. I think they're worried about the fraud implications if this goes public.
Good.
Let him worry. The settlement came through within 2 weeks. Noah got nothing from the farm, not a single dollar of its $800,000 value. We split the apartment equity, which was minimal, and divided our shared savings account, which had less than $5,000. Everything farm-related stayed with me. I'd won. But winning felt hollow those first few days. The town rallied around me like I'd never experienced. When word spread about what happened, and in a small town word always spreads, people showed up. Meadow brought casseroles. Thomas repaired my fence line without being asked. Sully spent 3 evenings just sitting on my porch, keeping me company while I processed everything. "You're not alone here," Meadow said one afternoon at the feed store. "You're one of us now." My farm stand saw double the customers. People who'd never bought from me before suddenly needed organic tomatoes and fresh eggs. The local restaurants, even the fancy one 2 towns over, started calling, wanting to buy my produce exclusively. "Dorothy's garden has the best quality in the region," Chef Anton told me. "And honestly, we admire what you did, standing up to those people." I received dozens of letters, some from strangers who'd heard the story, but most from women in similar situations, trapped in marriages, suffocated by family expectations, dreaming of their own version of freedom. One letter, from a woman named Claire in Massachusetts, brought me to tears. "You showed me it's possible. I'm leaving my husband next month. I'm terrified, but you did it. If you can build a whole farm, I can build a new life." I wrote back to every single letter. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Noah didn't contest anything. His lawyer had advised him that fighting would only expose his parents' attempted fraud and his own complicity. I saw him one last time at the courthouse. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. "I hope you're happy," he said, and it wasn't kind. "I am," I replied. And I meant it. One evening, about 6 weeks after the divorce, I sat on my porch watching the fireflies emerge over the meadow. Brutus lay at my feet, and my goats were settling in for the night. The farm hummed with life, the life I'd created. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Patricia. I'm sorry for everything. You were right about all of it. I hope someday you can forgive us." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it without responding. Some people don't deserve access to your peace. But 3 days later, another message arrived. This one longer. "I know I don't deserve a response. Richard and I are divorcing. I'm living in a small apartment, working part-time at a bookstore. Everything we had is gone. I lost it all chasing comfort and control. You try to show me what real work looks like, what real purpose feels like. I was too proud to see it. I'm sorry, Olivia. Not because I want forgiveness, but because you deserve to know that what you said mattered." I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back, "If you ever want to visit the farm, just you, not Richard, you're welcome." Not as family, but as someone who might finally understand. Her response came immediately. "Thank you. I'd like that." Sustainable Living magazine called on a September morning. "Ms. Whitmore, we'd like to feature Willowbrook Farm in our winter issue. You've been nominated by several community members for your conservation work and educational programs." The interview happened in October. The journalist, a woman named Rebecca Chen, spent 3 days at the farm, documenting everything. She helped with chores, interviewed neighbors, and sat with me for hours talking about my journey. "This is the American dream, you know," Rebecca said on her last evening. "Not the house and the car and the corporate job.
This.
Building something with your own hands. Creating something meaningful." The article came out in December. 6 pages, full-color photos, titled From Inheritance to Independence: How One Woman Transformed Abandoned Land into a Thriving Sanctuary. My phone didn't stop ringing for weeks. People wanted workshops, farm stays, interviews. A publisher reached out about a book deal. 2 universities invited me to speak. I hired help. Casey Morrison, a 24-year-old agricultural student who wanted to learn sustainable farming. And Ben Fletcher, a 40-year-old military veteran who'd found peace through working with animals and needed a fresh start. "You're giving me more than a job," Ben said his first week. "You're giving me a purpose again." The farm expanded. I bought the adjacent 20-acre property, available because the elderly owner was moving into assisted living, using money from the magazine publicity and increased sales. Now I had 60 acres total. Room to grow. Room to dream bigger. But late at night, when the farm was quiet, I still felt the absence of something. Not Noah, I didn't miss him. But partnership. Companionship. Someone to share this life with who actually understood it. That's when Thomas Hartley started appearing more often. 6 months after the divorce, everything was perfect. Too perfect. I should have known. The man appeared on a Tuesday afternoon, stepping out of a black Mercedes that looked absurdly out of place on my dirt driveway. Expensive suit, polished shoes, predatory smile. Ms. Whitmore? Garrett Sutton, Summit Ridge Developments. He extended a hand I didn't shake. I'll cut right to the chase. We'll pay $2.5 million for your property. That's triple market value. Not interested. His smile never wavered. Everyone has a price, Ms. Whitmore. And we're very patient. Then you'll be waiting forever. Goodbye, Mr. Sutton. He left, but something about his confidence made my skin crawl. The problem started small. My well pump mysteriously broke. The motor burned out in a way the repair technician said looked like sabotage. Fences were cut during the night, and my goats escaped. I found them a mile away, terrified and injured. Then the health inspector showed up with an anonymous complaint about food safety violations. He spent 4 hours examining every inch of my operation and found nothing wrong. Someone's got it out for you, he said quietly as he packed up. This complaint was detailed. Personal. Be careful. My insurance premiums tripled without explanation. The bank that held my equipment loan suddenly wanted additional collateral. Small things that individually seemed like bad luck, but together formed a pattern. I called Linda Crawford. They're trying to break me. Legally, there's not much we can do without proof of who's behind it. But Summit Ridge has a reputation, Olivia. They've done this before, harassing property owners until they sell. Sully did his own investigating. Turns out Summit Ridge was owned by a massive development corporation that had been systematically buying rural land across Vermont for luxury, eco-resort developments that were about as eco-friendly as strip mining. They have a pattern, Sully reported, spreading documents across my kitchen table. They make an offer. When refused, they start a pressure campaign. Legal troubles, mysterious accidents, social harassment. 60% of their target properties eventually sell. I'm not in their 60%. I know. That's what worries me. I organized a town meeting, stood in front of my community and laid out everything. The offer, the harassment, the pattern of intimidation. They'll come for other farms next, I said. Once they get mine, they'll want yours. We need to fight this together. The response was overwhelming. Local lawyers offered pro bono assistance. Environmental groups pledged support. We formed a coalition, Friends of Willowbrook Farm. I applied for historical landmark status. The original homestead dated to 1894. I worked with conservationists to designate the land as a wildlife corridor, which would make development nearly impossible. I hired a publicist to make sure every move Summit Ridge made was documented and public. Garrett Sutton returned, and this time he wasn't smiling. You're making a very expensive mistake, Ms. Whitmore. We can bury you in legal fees. We can make your life miserable. I held up my phone, recording. Is that a threat, Mr. Sutton? Because it sounds like coercion and intimidation. And I have witnesses. He left, tires spitting gravel. But that night, someone broke into my farmhouse. I woke to Brutus barking frantically, grabbed my phone and called 911, then grabbed the baseball bat I kept by my bed. Brutus had someone cornered in the barn, a man in dark clothes, clutching a camera and documents. The police arrived within 10 minutes. The man was a private investigator hired by Summit Ridge to find dirt on me. Breaking and entering, trespassing, attempted theft of property documents. The arrest made headlines. Development company caught harassing female farmer. The publicity was a tidal wave. News crews showed up. State representatives made statements. Environmental organizations launched campaigns. Summit Ridge's stock price dropped 3% in one day. Linda Crawford assembled a legal team, 3 pro bono attorneys who specialized in property rights and corporate harassment. We filed a lawsuit. Harassment, attempted coercion, property damage, conspiracy to defraud, and a dozen other charges. We're going to destroy them, Linda promised. And she meant it. The legal battle lasted 4 months. Summit Ridge tried to settle quietly twice. We refused both times. I wanted this public. Wanted every small farmer in America to see that you could fight back against corporate bullies. The settlement came through in March, $500,000 in damages, a public apology printed in every major newspaper, and a permanent legal restriction preventing Summit Ridge or any of its subsidiaries from ever approaching me about the property again. I used the money to buy another adjacent property, 20 acres with a stream running through it. Now I had 80 acres. An empire built on determination and spite. Your grandmother would be losing her mind with pride, Sully said when I showed him the new land. I think she knew, I replied. I think she always knew what I was capable of. That night, I stood at the highest point of my property and looked over everything I'd built, everything I'd protected. The farm lights twinkled below, my animals safely tucked in, my land secured for generations. I'd won again. But this victory felt different, sweeter, because I hadn't just protected my farm, I'd set a precedent for everyone who came after me. Spring came early that year, and with it, change. I expanded operations with the settlement money and the new land, built an education center for the sustainable farming workshops that now had a 6-month waiting list, created a sanctuary for rescued farm animals that Ben ran with tender expertise, hired 4 more full-time staff members. Casey became my farm manager, proving herself invaluable. You gave me more than a job, she said one evening. You showed me a woman can build an empire with her bare hands. The farm wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to everyone who worked here, learned here, found peace here. Then Noah showed up. I was in the greenhouse transplanting tomato seedlings when Brutus's bark announced a visitor. Through the glass, I saw Noah standing by his car, looking uncertain. He'd lost weight, looked older, softer somehow. I took my time washing my hands before going outside.
Olivia. Noah.
I didn't offer warmth, but I wasn't hostile either. Just neutral. He was a stranger now. I came to apologize.
He looked at the ground.
You were right about everything. I was focused on what the farm could give me, the money, the asset, the status of owning property. I never saw what it gave you, what you poured into it. Why now? I've been in therapy. 6 months. My therapist helped me see. He paused, struggling. My parents' obsession with money and status poisoned me. I watched you build something real, something meaningful, and I was jealous. Because I've never built anything in my life. I've only ever taken. I leaned against the fence, studying him. He seemed genuine, but I'd been fooled before. I'm not asking to get back together, he added quickly. I know that's over. I needed you to know that I understand now. What I lost. Who I lost. I appreciate the apology. But I can't give you absolution, Noah. You hurt me. You betrayed me. And you tried to take everything I'd built. I know. Maybe someday we can be friendly.
But not today.
Not for a long time. I softened slightly. I hope therapy helps. I hope you figure out who you are without your parents' voices in your head.
He nodded, eyes wet.
Can I ask one thing? Are you happy? I looked back at my farm. The greenhouse where food grew. The barn where animals thrived. The fields where students learned. The home I'd built with my own hands. Happier than I've ever been in my life. He got in his car and drove away. I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness. Just peace. Thomas Hartley had been a constant presence for years, but I'd been too focused on survival to notice. The divorced contractor had helped me build fences, repair equipment, install irrigation systems. He was steady, kind, and never asked for anything in return. We'd been having coffee together every Wednesday morning for almost a year. Somewhere along the way, it had become my favorite part of the week. One evening in May, after helping me repair the chicken coop, he asked, "Would you want to have dinner sometime?" Actual dinner, not farm work and coffee. I was surprised by how much I wanted to say yes. Our first date was simple. A farm-to-table restaurant 2 towns over, where they knew me by name and treated us like celebrities. Then stargazing from the bed of his truck, parked on the high ridge overlooking the valley. "I'm not trying to sweep you off your feet," Thomas said, lying beside me and watching the stars. "I just really enjoy your company. No pressure, no expectations." It was exactly what I needed. Someone who understood that I'd built a life I loved, and I wasn't looking for someone to complete me, just someone to walk alongside me. We took it slow. Dinners, farm work together, long conversations about everything and nothing. He never tried to change me or the farm. Never offered unsolicited advice or tried to take over projects. He just supported. 3 months in, he kissed me for the first time in my garden, surrounded by tomato plants and the smell of basil. It felt like coming home. My younger sister Charlotte called in July. We'd been estranged since the divorce. She'd taken Noah's side initially, believing his version that I'd had some kind of breakdown. "I saw the magazine article," she said, "and all the news coverage about the lawsuit. Olivia, I was so wrong about you." "Yes, you were." Silence. "Then, can I visit? I need to see this place. See what you've built." I almost said no, but something made me pause. Charlotte had her own struggles, trapped in a corporate job she hated, battling anxiety, feeling lost at 33. "1 week," I said. "You work while you're here. Real work."
Deal.
Charlotte arrived in August, stepping out of her rental car in designer jeans and heels. I handed her work boots and overalls. "Welcome to Willowbrook Farm." We start at dawn. I worked her hard that week. Morning chores, garden maintenance, animal care, food preparation. No phone except during designated breaks. No complaining. The first 2 days she struggled. Complained about sore muscles, dirt under her nails, the early mornings. But by day 3, something shifted. She started asking questions about the plants, the animals, the systems I'd built. By day 5, I found her crying in the garden. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. That's the problem." She looked up at me, tears streaming. "I've spent a week doing the hardest physical work of my life, and I feel peaceful. How did you know this was what you needed?" I sat beside her in the dirt. I didn't know. I just kept taking the next step, and then another, and another, until one day, I realized I'd built something I couldn't walk away from. I hate my life, Liv. I hate my job, my apartment, the person I've become. I don't know how to fix it. Start small. Take one step. Then another. That night, Charlotte proposed an idea. What if I handled the business side of the farm? Marketing, sales, online presence, partnerships. You focus on operations, I handle growth strategy. I was hesitant. I'd mixed family and business before. It had destroyed my marriage. But Thomas, when I asked his opinion, said, "Charlotte isn't Noah. She's asking to work for you, not take from you. Give her a chance." We drew up a formal partnership agreement with Linda Crawford's help. Clear boundaries, defined roles, legal protections. Charlotte would get a salary and a small percentage of profits, but the land remained solely mine. She moved into the renovated barn apartment in September. And for the first time in years, I had family on the farm who actually supported my vision. 2 years after the divorce, Willowbrook Farm was everything I dreamed and more. We were a certified organic operation hosting over 100 educational events annually. The Farm Stay program had a year-long waiting list. Universities sent students for internships. We'd been featured in 3 documentaries about sustainable agriculture. I'd become a voice in the movement, speaking at conferences, advising policymakers, writing articles. But I never forgot where I started, a burned-out marketing executive with a broken marriage and a crumbling inheritance. In November, while renovating the attic for additional storage, I found something that changed everything. A wooden box, hidden beneath floorboards, labeled for Olivia. Inside, letters. Dozens of them, written by Grandma Dorothy over 20 years, addressed to me, but never sent. I sat on that dusty floor and read them all. Olivia, age 10. You visited the farm today with your parents. While everyone else complained about the heat and the bugs, you spent 3 hours in the garden asking me about every plant. You have my spirit, sweet girl. When you're ready, come home. Olivia, age 16. I heard you're applying to colleges. Your mother says you want to study marketing. I hope you find success. But I also hope that someday, when the city breaks you the way it broke me, you'll remember there's a place that can heal you. Olivia, age 24. You married that Noah boy. I met him at the wedding. He doesn't see you, the real you, the strong you. When you finally see yourself clearly, come home. The farm will be waiting. Olivia, age 29. I'm dying. The doctors say I have maybe a year. I'm leaving you the farm. Not because you need it, but because it needs you. You're the only one who will understand what this land means. What it can become. Save it, sweetheart. Save yourself. Make it bloom again. I cried until I couldn't breathe. Grandma Dorothy had known. Had always known. She'd left me the farm not as a burden, but as a lifeboat. Patricia's email arrived the same week. I know I have no right to ask, but could I visit? Just for a day. I promise I won't be a bother. I almost deleted it, but I thought about Grandma Dorothy's letters. About second chances and growth and forgiveness, not for the other person, but for yourself. Come next Saturday. Bring work clothes. Patricia arrived in a 10-year-old Toyota, wearing jeans and a simple sweater. She looked different, older, yes, but also more real. The artificial glamour was gone, replaced by something genuine. Thank you for letting me come, she said quietly. I handed her gloves. You're going to help me plant the winter garden. We worked side by side for hours. I showed her how to prepare beds, plant garlic cloves, mulch for winter. She listened, asked questions, and worked without complaining. At lunch, sitting on the porch with soup and fresh bread, she finally spoke. Richard and I are divorced. He remarried someone 20 years younger, still chasing status. I'm working at a bookstore part-time, living in a studio apartment. I lost everything. And I've never been more at peace. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. You tried to show me this. That first weekend we were here, you showed us what real work, real purpose looks like. I was too proud, too entitled to see it. Why now, Patricia? Why reach out? Because I'm trying to rebuild a life that means something. And you're the only person I know who's actually done it. She paused. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to learn. I thought about all the people who'd helped me, Sully, Meadow, Thomas, Linda. People who'd given me chances when I was broken and trying to rebuild. You can visit quarterly. Work visits, not social calls. I'll teach you about sustainable living, about building something real. But this is my farm, my sanctuary. You're a guest, not family. I understand. Thank you, Olivia. She visited every 3 months after that. Always working, always learning. Slowly, grudgingly, I began to respect her effort. She was trying to change, and change is never easy. Thomas and I had been together almost 2 years when he said the words that changed everything. We were feeding chickens on a Tuesday morning, the mundane rhythm of daily life, when he said, I'd like to build my life here, with you. I stopped, grain scattering from my hand. I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet anyway. I'm just saying I want this. You, the farm, this life. I want to wake up here every morning and go to sleep here every night. I want to build something together. He smiled. No rush, no pressure. But I wanted you to know. I kissed him right there in the chicken coop, surrounded by curious hens and the smell of hay. Yes. Stay. Build with me. We planned a small wedding for the following spring. Nothing fancy, just friends, family, and the community that had supported me through everything. Charlotte was my maid of honor. Sully officiated, his weathered hands steady as he read the vows we'd written ourselves. Thomas's children from his first marriage attended, 2 grown sons who'd embraced me as family. Even Patricia came, sitting in the back, genuinely happy for me. As I stood there in a simple white dress I'd bought from a local seamstress, holding Thomas's hands and promising forever, I thought about the journey. From a burned-out marketing executive in a dying marriage to this, a thriving farm, a chosen family, a love built on respect and partnership. You may kiss your bride, Sully announced. The crowd, 100 people who'd become my family, erupted in cheers. 5 years after inheriting Willowbrook Farm, I stood on the highest hill of my property at sunset. Thomas was beside me, his arm around my waist. Charlotte was in the garden below, teaching a workshop to a group of eager students. Casey and Ben were closing up the barn, their laughter carrying on the breeze. The farm spread out before me like a living tapestry, gardens, orchards, pastures, the farmhouse glowing with solar power. 80 acres of purpose and peace. My phone buzzed. A text from a stranger. I read about you. About how you built your farm from nothing. I'm leaving my marriage tomorrow. I'm scared, but you showed me it's possible.
Thank you,
I replied. Take the first step. Then take another. You're stronger than you know. You've got this. Thomas squeezed my hand. What are you thinking about? Grandma Dorothy. She left me her final letter. I read it again this morning. I pulled out the worn paper I kept in my pocket. Read it aloud one more time. You made it bloom, sweetheart. I knew you would. This land isn't just yours. It's your legacy now. Protect it. Teach others. And remember, you were never alone. I was always here. In every seed you planted, in every sunrise you witnessed, in every lesson you learned. The farm didn't just save you, you saved the farm. That's the real magic. Love, Grandma Dorothy. She was right. I whispered to the wind. About all of it. Thomas kissed my temple. Ready to go inside? I made dinner. In a minute. I looked out over my land one more time. I just want to stay here a little longer. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. And he meant it. As the sun finally set, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, I thought about everything I'd overcome. The entitled in-laws who'd tried to steal my land. The corporate developers who'd tried to break me. The marriage that had tried to diminish me. I'd survived them all. More than survived. I'd thrived. This farm, this life, this peace. I'd built it with my own hands. And no one could ever take it from me again. Okay, I finally said, turning toward the farmhouse where warm light glowed in every window. Let's go home. Because that's what this place was now. Not just a farm. Not just property. Not just an inheritance. Home. And I'd fought like hell to keep it. When someone tries to take what you've built with your own hands, how far are you willing to go to protect it? If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about standing your ground when family tries to take everything.